You're listening to episode 84 of the Fed and Fearless podcast. On today's episode, I'm chatting with Steph Prangley about how to handle body grief in PCOS so you can develop body acceptance and learn how to trust your body again. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Laura Schoenfeld. I'm a registered dietitian and coach trained in functional medicine with a passion for helping women just like you ditch perfectionism and use food, fitness, and self-care to fuel your bigger God-given purpose. I believe that it's possible to achieve your biggest life-changing goals without the frustration, obsession, or negative self-talk that so many women subject themselves to every day. All you need are the right tools, the right mindset, and the faith to turn your dreams into reality. I'm here to guide you along the way. The truth is that you are so much more than a body, and I'm on a mission to help you change the way you think and act at a core beliefs level so you can transform your physical, mental, and spiritual health from the inside out. Are you ready to become fed and fearless in your pursuit of a healthy, meaningful life? Welcome to the Fed and Fearless podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fed and Fearless podcast. I'm Laura Schoenfeld, your host, and today's episode is with somebody who I've had the pleasure of working with in my business coaching program called the Nutrition Business Accelerator. And I've just loved to learn not only how many things we have in common, but also just in general, how we have such a similar philosophy on helping people overcome their health issues, particularly helping women with hormone issues like PCOS. So today's guest is Steph Prangley. Steph is a nutritional therapy practitioner and owner of Infinity Hill Nutrition, a virtual private practice specializing in women's hormone health. Steph helps women with PCOS gain energy, improve ovulation, and stabilize their moods so they can accomplish all their important life goals while being fully present in their relationships. Steph believes it's possible to gain freedom from the painful and embarrassing symptoms of PCOS by reframing body grief to body acceptance and learning how to trust your body and read its signals. With compassion and kindness, she gently guides her clients with mindset work, nutrition, lifestyle, and their own intuition to build body trust and successfully manage symptoms for the long run. Steph is passionate about empowering women to build body trust and self-acceptance while healing the health issues that are holding them back from doing the things they love. Her clients gain the health outcomes they need to take care of the daily to-dos with enough left over to fuel their highest purpose and their passions. She's on a mission to help you simplify hormone health and empower you to become the expert of your own body so you can transform your health at the core. Steph lives outside of Greenville, South Carolina on a 25-acre farm with her husband, 2 dogs, 20-some chickens, and occasional visits from the neighborhood black bear. She loves spending time outside hiking and camping in the mountains or relaxing on the lake. She's an avid reader, a forever student, and an amateur kombucha brewer. So I'm super pumped to have Steph on the show. The conversation we have is very interesting and just something that I feel like needs to be talked about a lot more often. So I was really excited that she could come on and share her perspective with you, share her story, and share her wisdom that she's gained over the years, not only in healing her own hormonal health issues, but also helping other women do the same. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. And without further ado, here is Steph Prangley. All right, everybody. Well, I am so excited to have with me on the show today, Steph Prangley. Welcome to the Fed and Fearless podcast, Steph.
Thanks, Laura. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know I've gotten the chance to have a couple of conversations with you in the Nutrition Business Accelerator program, and I just love the work you're doing. So I'm excited to have you here. So for our audience members who don't know you or, maybe know a little bit about you, I would love if you could share your story about how you became so passionate about hormone health, PCOS, and chronic women's health issues.
So I think my story's probably similar to a lot of people who end up in this line of work. It's a dramatic story of overachieving and perfectionism that eventually led to burnout and a health crisis that just made me reevaluate everything in my life. So, when I was growing up, I was a top student and athlete. I was pretty gifted, but still worked extremely hard. And I was pretty hard on myself. I put high expectations on myself. And somewhere along the way, I got the impression that I needed to be perfect to be lovable. And so this theme of perfectionism and sort of getting this perfect resume continued for, until my early to mid 30s. I mean, a long time. So I was already a perfectionist with academics and athletics, but then I was on scholarship in college to play volleyball. And then that's where body image issues started coming up. So I just kind of observed the other girls on the team, and we're like college volleyball players. It's, I don't think anyone should have body image issues, but especially like collegiate athletes, right? We're like high performing, tall women that, we're okay, but I would observe the other girls on the team, like micromanaging the food on their plates and kind of pinching the skin of their stomach. And my coach kept telling me to lose 5 pounds. And so, this was new for me at the time, but it became a new issue that I felt I needed to put energy into, that I was failing at. So like, I'm kind of failing at being perfect in all of these different ways. And so that really led to, under eating and injuries and energy issues. So this cycle kind of continued for the next decade plus. I was sort of cycling between pursuing this perfectionist life and realizing that it was unachievable. So slipping into a state of rebellion. I, worked really hard professionally, climbing the corporate ladder and sacrificing sleep and stressing out. And then physically, athletically, I was training in the gym and still being competitive with volleyball, all while trying to get back to this college volleyball weight that I was never even able to achieve when I was in college. It was like that weight minus 5 pounds that my coach kept telling me to lose. So, there were warning signs along the way that I wasn't doing well. I started experiencing mood swings and weight gain and fatigue and withdrawing from friends and social situations, and really just being unable to handle not even stressful situations, just like unexpected situations. I mean, I became kind of incapable of handling my own life. And, I'd like to say that I was just like, okay, I can't live this lifestyle anymore, and became an NTP and overhauled my entire life. But it still kind of required a more substantial health crisis, which was triggered by me taking this pretty big promotion and relocating to a big city back in 2017. And it was just the definition of the toxic corporate environment, where you had all of these fake emergencies and nothing was ever good enough for management or, upper leadership. Long hours, working weekends, commuting on public transit, air pollution. It felt like there were so many inputs. And I finally just crashed and burned. It became harder and harder for me to like not cry on a daily basis, or, I was just merely surviving at that point. Like, I was able to just get up and go to work and nothing else. So that sort of led me into this whole like holistic health world. I started learning a little bit more about functional medicine. I left that job. I took time off from it and then eventually got a new job. Then I pursued the NTP, and I just noticed that I wasn't out there alone. Like maybe not everyone was forgetting words to basic things and crying all the time and unable to shower and brush your teeth. But, there's so many women out there who, and men too, but women who struggle with just the stress of keeping up with, societal expectations even, or just the world we live in. And it's stressor after stressor after stressor. And, we start getting all of these weird symptoms that like maybe we look healthy, but we're barely able to keep up with the daily to-dos and, forget about having anything left over to pursue any sort of true passion or true purpose. We're just kind of merely surviving. And I grew really attracted to helping women with these burnout chronic illnesses and with PCOS specifically. I got involved with women with PCOS for a few reasons. And it's like, first, they kind of find me. Like, I have friends with PCOS. And when I first graduated from the NTP program, like women with PCOS just kind of found me. And I have symptoms of it with adrenal issues and stuff like that, but no formal diagnosis. And I feel like that population is just severely underserved. They get really, really bad advice from, many conventional medical professionals that, will make them feel like it's their fault or make it feel like it's in their head or just, give them the birth control pill and the advice to lose weight while they're already, under eating and over exercising or barely have the energy to even take a shower or go for a walk or something like that. So it was a really difficult journey. It's something that I still have to manage pretty tightly. It took a couple years to figure out what really works for me. But yeah, that's sort of how I got into what I feel like are my purpose and my passions, that stuff that I didn't have energy for before when I was chronically ill.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, I feel like you and I have a lot of overlap with some of the experiences that we had because I think that I played college volleyball, right? Just for a bit.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, and I definitely relate to that sport being difficult for body image because it's like a lot of times you're wearing hardly any clothing and, a lot of the women that end up excelling at volleyball just happen to be these like, Amazons. Like I always think of like, what is it? The Wonder Woman movie is like a lot of like volleyball players and stuff as far as the actors are concerned. So it is something that, I love volleyball, so don't get me wrong. I'm not bashing the sport, but it is, when you're in your late teens, early 20s, it can be something that can trigger some body image issues, and especially being told by your coach to lose weight, like 5 pounds. Come on. Hopefully you can look back and say like, what would 5 pounds of weight loss actually done for anything as far as performance is concerned? But it is something that I think in women's sports, especially it's really common. And like my husband is a coach and he actually had to kind of do the opposite with a lot of his female athletes because he did coach volleyball for a little bit, but he was more of a track coach. And that's a sport where there is a lot of pressure to like be as small as possible because it supposedly makes you faster. And it is really sad that so many coaches of sports for women out there, they're not helping women make sure they're eating enough or they're actually encouraging the opposite. So and then just the perfectionism and all of that, like I definitely resonate with a lot of the different elements of your story. Even the part about like having PCOS type symptoms that are probably more of that like adrenal PCOS, but not actually having a formal diagnosis. I've kind of had a very similar journey with my hormone health. So definitely connect with that story. So thanks for sharing it. Now, I know that you today wanted to talk about the concept of body grief and thinking about just how our expectations or past experiences or beliefs about what our body should look like, what our body looks like now or how it's functioning now, all of that being things that can create this sense of loss in our current day-to-day life. I'd love to just hear more about that. How do you see body grief showing up with your PCOS clients, and why is it something that can interfere with healing these health issues?
Yeah, body grief is really interesting because it's easy for us to get stuck in a bit of a victim mode where we may be grieving the loss of a future we saw for ourselves or grieving what used to be. That's something that I had to deal with as a competitive athlete where I kept getting injured and my body just couldn't keep up with all of the demands I was putting on it, and I wanted it to. Like, it's hard to, people always say, say no to the things that aren't serving you, but when you have to say no to the things that you love doing, that's a whole new level of grief, of just emotional grief that you have to deal with. And the way that it interferes with healing is it really takes you out of the present moment. When we're living with this grief, like I said, you're sort of grieving the loss of some future you expected, which who even knows what that future might be? Like, you still might be able to get the thing, but you think you can't. Or grieving what used to be true about your body, the way it looked, the way it acted, the way it functioned, all of that stuff. So this just disconnects you from your body at this moment. And a theme with all of my coaching clients is further connecting you to your body so that you can understand its signals, understand its symptoms, understand what it's trying to communicate with you, because we have all of this noise from the outside world, whether it be our society and what the female body is supposed to look like. We're supposed to, work full time or have a side hustle or do both, the whole second shift syndrome where we're working and have kids or a household or, the side hustle or whatever. And it's just this go, go, go and eat this and not that. And exercise only counts if you are doing CrossFit or something. And it's just all of this external noise disconnects you from your body. And it's the same thing with this body grief, where it kind of keeps you in the what ifs and the only whens. I'm putting air quotes around that. And again, just keeping you out of the present moment and sort of keeping you in a fix-it mentality, where we approach ourselves as something that needs to be fixed. Even I need to fix this grief. It's okay to grieve, but we're not a leaky roof. We don't just need to be fixed real quick, slap some shingles on or whatever. We're human with emotions and relationships and stressors and responsibilities. And I think approaching our body in its current state, accepting where it is, honoring that with kindness and compassion and support. It's meeting your body where it is at this time, accepting and respecting where it is at this time with limitations and all, because I really believe that we are where we're supposed to be at this moment. I don't personally believe that we have that much control over everything that we like to think we have control over. And so just this element of sort of surrendering to the present, accepting where it is, and then we can move on and start making decisions that are right for us at this time, rather than, again, listening to all of that external noise. So, kind of maybe going through a grieving process, and it's okay to wish that maybe you looked differently or could perform differently or whatever. The real goal is to just say, okay, I wish I could still play competitive volleyball. That's okay. I can't. And then you start to move into, okay, what can I do? So we become really fully present in our life with our loved ones, with all of the important things that are going on right here and right now. And we're able to enjoy those things and sort of lay off this pressure of what we think we should be.
I love it. I feel like, well, I don't love that we're, that so many people experience the challenges and that so many people are experiencing these negative thoughts and feelings and everything. But I do love that you're giving people permission to experience it. And I feel like a lot of people who are more of that type A, go, 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 want to fix things, want to do it all, want to be perfect. A lot of times they do look at anything that's not the way they want it to be as like a project, as you were saying before. It's like, oh, my body isn't exactly the way I want it, so I need to work on it so that it is the way that I want it to be. And I for sure have had that experience, not only with myself, but also with clients where sometimes it's not possible to have that outcome. And you can put all the quote unquote right actions into place, and that doesn't guarantee that your body is going to respond the way you want it to. And I think that can be really frustrating for people who are kind of those high achievers that are used to getting what they work towards and are used to seeing results from their actions. And not unfortunate. I mean, I think our bodies are designed perfectly to keep us alive and to keep us functioning as best as possible. And so a lot of times the reason our bodies don't change is because the body's trying to protect us. So it's not like, our body's against us or trying to harm us. It's really just trying to stay alive and stay safe. And so I think it can be incredibly frustrating for people who are used to being successful with the efforts they put in life in general. When their body doesn't respond the way that they think it should, it can create a lot of anger and a lot of like sadness and a lot of frustration, a lot of shame. And I think just giving people permission to not be happy with their bodies. I don't know if that's the best way to explain it. Maybe you can say it more eloquently, but it's almost like normalizing not thinking that your body is, perfect.
Yeah, that I was sort of laughing over here because when you think of the type A person, even when maybe we can finally get people like myself to buy into the fact that like, okay, I can't be perfect, then you sort of start pursuing relaxing or letting go with the same kind of rigor where it's like, like I need to learn how to relax harder or be okay better or something like that. Like, I don't know. It's a whole messy circle. But yeah, I mean, I think what we do with that permission stage that you're talking about is sort of normalizing it being okay to be in discomfort. We really like to assign morality, like good or bad, to certain emotions. And just like what you were saying about our body's symptoms and being protective, like our moods and emotions are kind of just data points too. So, instead of being like, I feel uncomfortable in my body and I need to figure out how to fix that, shifting more to some curiosity or even just being okay with it. Like, I feel uncomfortable in my body and that's okay. Like, what's really going to happen? It depends on where you are. And with client work, this is one of the benefits of coaching is you get to sort of adapt and adjust to whoever I'm working with. But, maybe they do just need to normalize that feeling is okay. Or maybe the curiosity thing comes in. Well, why do I feel uncomfortable in my body? Okay, I feel uncomfortable because I gained weight. Well, why do I feel uncomfortable because I gained weight? Because I don't feel comfortable in my clothes anymore. Okay, can we solve that problem? Can we find clothes that fit, for example? And, you can do that with really anything, but it's really just, yeah, kind of having that permission to like not be on all the time or not be this perfect Instagram filtered version of ourselves all the time. Like, humans are messy and we make mistakes and our life changes, and we're like, thankfully we're adaptable and we can ebb and flow with that. And I think we really get into trouble when we try to make things just flat and straight with no variability, like weight being one of those, right? Like how many years did I spend wasting my time trying to get back to a weight I was when I was 18, 19 years old, playing sports or working out like 6 hours a day. It distracts you from pursuing whatever it is that lights you up in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I see this a lot, especially with entrepreneurs, and that's kind of my main clientele at this point is people who are building businesses. And I feel like so much of the stress that we experience in our lives in this society, I mean, obviously there's other parts of the world that have a lot more basic stressors than what we tend to experience in the United States and, the West in general. But it's like, I feel like so much of the stress that we experience comes from believing that things should be different than what they currently are. And it doesn't mean that you can't work towards outcomes or that you should just never do anything to change anything, because I certainly don't believe that. I think, there are times where we can recognize habits that aren't serving us or beliefs that aren't serving us or goals that we have that can be achieved. It's not like it's impossible to achieve certain goals. But I think so much of it, again, comes down to one, that we are not able to be okay or satisfied or content with what the current state of things is. And you're probably, hopefully, I think, agree with this, that you don't have to be discontent with your life to be working towards goals. I think that's a myth that a lot of people believe, that it's like, well, if I get content, I'm going to get complacent and I won't be, working towards anything. And I don't really think that that's true, especially just in my own experience. I've been there before where I thought discontent was supposed to guide my actions. And now I'm at a place where I'm like, no, like I can totally be happy with where I am and also have goals that I'm working towards. And it's not an either or situation. So that's one thing that I see a lot in, like I said, especially the entrepreneur space, but I saw it in the health space as well. Like what you were saying before about being unhappy with your body and thinking you should work towards this goal weight, that when you stop to think about it, it was like, well, how is this actually going to make my life better? Especially if one, it wasn't something that was easy or even possible to attain when you were younger. And two, it probably doesn't actually make a huge impact on your life if you were to be that weight. So that kind of leads me to the second thing I was going to mention, is this concept of value-based decision-making around anything that we're pursuing as far as goals are, because I think it's really, really easy to kind of get caught up in what you think you should want. And I feel like weight loss tends to be one of those things. And I'm not anti-weight loss. Like I think if people want to try to lose weight or like would feel better, 10 pounds lighter because their joints would be less painful, like I'm not going to judge anyone for wanting to do that. But I think it's really important to be really, really clear about what the benefit of the goal would be and why you want to pursue the goal. Because I know for me, and I don't know if you've had this experience, but I know I've seen other people have this experience where it's like you're working towards something that you think you're supposed to want. And then you realize like, wait, I don't even want this. Like, or, having this thing wouldn't actually make my life better. So why am I making myself miserable trying to attain it if it's literally not going to improve my life at all? So I don't know if either of those things resonate with you, but that's kind of something I've been noticing a lot, not only in the work I did with the health clients I would work with, but even in the entrepreneur space. It's just like a different type of, it's like the same issue, just in a different circumstance.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, your first point where it doesn't have to be either or, you can embrace the both and. I mean, that's like the theme for the last year and a half too. But you were saying like, I can both be content with where I am right now and be grateful for what I do have, and I can pursue some other goals that will lead to something that serves me in a different way or a better way or whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be like either I'm unhappy where I am, so then I go and pursue whatever the goal is. It can be both. And honestly, with both of those things I just mentioned, like being appreciative and grateful and really choosing happiness with what you do have right now, that makes it a little bit easier to make decisions to help you move towards a goal or achieving some higher level of yourself, or however you want to call that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like it takes a lot of the emotional charge out of pursuing goals because you're not attaching your future happiness to the achievement of that goal. It's like if you feel like, oh, if I don't, lose the weight, or if I don't get pregnant, or if I don't, have a 6-figure business or whatever, if you're believing that outcome is what's holding you back from happiness, then if you're not reaching it for whatever reason, you're always going to be stuck in that unhappiness. And then the sad part is half the time when you actually get there, you realize like, oh, nothing about myself actually changed. Like I'm still the same person. I still deal with the same emotions. Like getting to that goal didn't fix the emotion that I was having. So it is something that I feel like more people need to talk about, especially those people who I think from outside perspectives could be seen as like, oh, like they have it all, or they're like, so successful. And, or like, if you're looking at somebody with a certain body size, it's like, oh, they must be so happy because they have this body. And I just think it's like, sadly, that assumption is what I think leads so many people to be discontent with their life, because they assume the reason they're not happy is because they don't have what other people have. And I've been around a lot of people. It's funny, even in the business world, just people that are like, they run like $1 million businesses, multi-million-dollar businesses. And they talk about how reaching that outcome didn't actually really change their life at all. Like they weren't any happier. They weren't any more like, proud of themselves, anything like that. And so I think we can really apply that to the health space as well. Like, just because somebody has a healthy body, a, thin body, an attractive body, whatever we want to call it, doesn't mean they're happy. There's plenty of very unhappy people out there that have, supermodel bodies, basically. And I think if we can really just detach our emotional state from those health outcomes, again, it doesn't mean you don't work towards it. Like I do think if somebody's got PCOS and they have a lot of symptoms of PCOS, there's a lot they can do to improve that and feel better and alleviate discomfort. And if they're trying to get pregnant, like there are options for them to get pregnant in a natural way without requiring like really invasive medical treatments. And so it's like being able to not beat yourself up about the way things currently are, or not assume that because things are the way they are, that means you can't be happy until they change. Being able to get into that headspace while also figuring out what actions would be valuable to move towards the goal, that I feel like that's like the sweet spot to be in. And unfortunately, having been in the other way of thinking before and still sometimes struggling, I just think it's like a societal thing to make people feel like you can't be happy unless you are rich and thin and beautiful and all the different things that they tell women that we need to be. And I really think like the more of us that can kind of say, no, you don't need to be like that to be happy. It doesn't mean you can't pursue things that you want. It doesn't mean that, Steph, that you can't, work towards playing volleyball again. It just means that if you aren't able to now, or maybe you're never able to, it doesn't mean that you can't have a happy and full life.
Yeah, exactly. You said it really well. Just really disassociating like your own value, your own self-worth from like fill in the blank, whatever the thing is. I said this, I think, when we were talking about the body grief, instead of putting you in the present moment, it takes you to this world of like, quote, only when I lose the weight can I get a boyfriend, or only when I have like this income will I be successful, or, just exploring where those thoughts came from. Like you were saying, are they even my thoughts? Are these even goals that I want to have? Are they even going to serve me? Because once you achieve the thing, that's your new normal. Like that high doesn't last very long. You're just like, oh, okay, I'm 10 pounds lighter now. Now what? Like nothing, like you said, nothing changes when you reach that outcome that you were pursuing.
Mm-hmm. So I know that a big part of the work that you do with your clients is teaching them how to trust their intuition as part of their, probably just their life in general, but more specifically as part of their health journey. So can you talk a little bit more about what that means and how you actually work with clients to build body trust?
Yeah. So I think you said this earlier about how our body is really set up to protect us and it just wants us to survive. So everything it does, from presenting as fatigue to gaining weight around our midsection, those are all symptoms and signals that can give us a little bit of an indicator into what's going on in our body. And, circling back to another overarching theme is the outside noise, the tendency for women with PCOS or other hormonal imbalances to just kind of disconnect from their body because all of the health issues that come with it, the sleep issues, the mood swings, the low energy, the cravings, it makes you feel like a stranger in your own body. So it's just a little bit easier to completely disconnect from it rather than get curious and tap into those symptoms. So the way that my coaching program is set up is I work pretty sequentially. So it's set up in an order for a reason. And I work really hard to first provide a little bit more guidance. So a lot of women come to me and they're under eating or maybe eliminating some certain food groups unnecessarily, or even just unhealthily obsessed with health. So we kind of work to make sure that the body feels safe and secure and properly nourished. So we'll do some like nutrition education, how to set up a plate properly. With PCOS, it's kind of important to load up breakfast with a lot of protein. Like we just go through certain things like that. Really, the goal being, how can we just calm the body? Like I picture like these bodies on fire inside. Like how can we soothe that to a place where we can get a little bit more of a baseline? So that's sort of like the foundational buildup where we do a lot of like the really boring basics, like eating breakfast, like figuring out how to manage blood sugar in a way that works well for the client. Digestive best practices, stuff like sleep hygiene, like all the unsexy stuff that no one wants to do that like really goes a long way. So once those foundations are in place, we can then start to tap into these other symptoms and signals that the body's getting. So, with PCOS, sugar crave, like out of control, outside your body, sugar cravings are very common. So again, like going back to what we would normally do or what clients normally do would be like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm craving sugar. I need to like manage my insulin resistance. And I just ate a couple hours ago and I can't have that thing because it'll mess with my blood sugar, blah, 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 blah. And like, I'm really hungry or I'm really craving this thing and I can't control it. And you just get this war between your body and your mind. So instead, what I teach clients to do is, approach something like that with curiosity. So, all right, I'm craving sugar right now. Let's explore. When was the last time I ate? Did I eat breakfast? Did I eat enough? Am I allowing too much time in between meals? If it's late at night, did I eat enough throughout the day, or is my body trying to catch up right now? And sugar is a common craving because it's quick for our body to process and it's quick to get into your bloodstream. And so, whenever I hear something like a sugar craving, I sort of, we can kind of go back in time and take and evaluate the day in relation to how we feel. And then just, what are my takeaways from this? And you're hungry, you're craving sugar, like, okay, like what can you eat that can support both the craving and all of these other foundations that we work to put in place? So say I want cookies, but I'm scared I'm going to like eat the whole box of cookies or whatever? Like, can I pair that cookie with something that will help regulate my blood sugar or not spike it at least, while still letting me have what I'm craving? And then what can I take away from this? Like, how can I prevent this from happening again, if at all, you know? And then again, just sort of taking it without judgment, just making these neutral observations. Like, I am starving at night if I don't eat a huge breakfast, or I struggle to fall asleep when I spend too much time on social media, or when I eat a certain food, I get puffy and my joints are achy. And removing the judgment is a big part of it, while realizing that not like every little meal and snack and day of movement, or even weeks or months or years of our lives, like, we're going for the big picture here. And, you know, PCOS is a marathon, not a sprint, which is why, you know, tuning, like, kind of slowly and methodically working through these foundations to health, but then tying it back into how someone can learn how to trust her body. So as life changes, which it will, as just living on this earth, it can be stressful, you know? And so being able to tap into those symptoms as data, as information for us to interpret, you know, that means that you can really have some long-term success. So exercise might be another one. If you're, you know, you might love to move like I do. Well, I just had to take like 3 years off of doing anything that was super intense. Like, we're talking walks and stretching have been my life with movement for the last few years. And now that I'm, you know, I feel like kind of sufficiently healed, I'm slowly getting into like more weight training and longer bike rides and stuff like that. But like, that's also honoring my body and honoring where it's at and honoring my energy when it comes back. And so being able to work with that ebb and flow of life, where it was like, okay, I'm in a high stress season right now. What does that mean? Okay, that means maybe I can't really do the high intensity exercise, and I need to prioritize sleep and maybe increase my carbs a little bit. Like, that feels very nourishing to me. Or, you know, super stressed, I'm going to cut out alcohol until life slows down a little bit. So just getting really comfortable with that ebb and flow, like the stuff that's going to happen no matter how much we try to control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of interesting the way that you're describing your process of training clients' intuition, because, and I might get in trouble for this, but I feel like it's almost like a little reversal of the standard intuitive eating approach, because from what I know from, you know, the bit of education that I've had on that, the last step is the gentle nutrition part. And I think that's something that I've always had a little bit of an issue with, just being in the functional medicine space and knowing that, like, sometimes people have hunger, or, you know, they don't feel well, or their energy's low because their body needs something specific from a nutrition perspective. And if they're just like, oh, I'll just like eat what I feel like eating, not to have judgment about that, because again, judging yourself for doing it is probably not helpful either, but just knowing that, like, hey, maybe my body's craving sugar because I didn't sleep enough, or because I had alcohol last night, or because I didn't have protein at breakfast. Like, just having that understanding of the way that the body works, and especially in PCOS, where you do have more, you know, sensitive insulin resistance, or like insulin issues, or, you know, maybe you can't just eat whatever you want and still feel okay. And so I think, and I don't know if this is what you were saying, but this is kind of how I think about it, is like the gentle nutrition piece sometimes has to come first, because your body's hunger and satiety system is like so jacked up from all the, you know, the different stressors, the different like malnutrition, or, you know, blood sugar dysregulation, all of that, that it's like getting that stabilized can actually help somebody get to that place of being able to eat what they want. Like if you want to have a cookie, your body can handle a cookie because your blood sugar hasn't been crazy all day. So I don't know if that's how you feel or if I'm like totally missing missing what you're actually talking about, but it is kind of interesting to me, just some of the more like super strict intuitive eating methodology that it doesn't really even talk about that kind of stuff until the end. And I actually feel like it can be really valuable to talk about in the beginning.
Yeah, I think I take a lot of guidance from intuitive eating just because the PCOS population is more likely to tend towards orthorexia. So, you're absolutely right. I think just teaching those foundations to even just digestion and blood sugar regulation can remove a lot of the stress from like the cookie or whatever it is. So moving towards food neutrality and stuff like that's really important because you don't want to be putting like different morality on different foods, but yeah, it's hard to make good decisions with your body when when your blood sugar is all out of whack. And especially for women with PCOS, I think even if they wanted to pursue the 10 principles of intuitive eating, they have to work a little harder to get to what the average person's baseline is. Like we just talked about, like we have issues with blood sugar and insulin in general, where just sort of feeding the craving isn't going to move that person into a more intuitive way of eating, where the average person who might not have those issues and just has like a disordered eating background or something like that, they can kind of go through these phases of eating all the things and then sort of reevaluating how they feel and stuff like that until they get to the gentle nutrition part. So I agree. It depends on the person. Like I don't work with someone who has an active eating disorder, for example, and I don't coach intuitive eating, but I use those principles to sort of guide alongside of what we know about nutrition to be true and those foundations I talked about earlier. Like there's an intersection for sure. And what we really need is, clients and people in general to figure out what feels good in their body. And, separating health from weight is a good place to start, but you're the only expert in your body. Like I can't even really tell you what to eat. I can give you education on just the science behind nutrients and what we know about PCOS and insulin and inflammation and blood sugar and digestion and how all of these things sort of play into our health overall. But I mean, I really think the only long-term strategy we can have, PCOS or otherwise, is getting in touch with the inner self, the intuition, building the body trust, because what works while you're working with me might not work a couple years later. And I don't really want to have repeat clients, So yeah, I think you're right. I guess I'd never thought of it that way, but yeah, I do think laying foundations to get someone with hormonal imbalances to a certain baseline can then lead to, just better decision making in general and quieting that noise that we talked about. Like that's kind of a big part of intuitive eating too, is just like shutting off the external world and what they're trying to tell you about how you should look and how you should eat and how you should move and all of that stuff. We just, we sort of work with that intersection where it doesn't have to be all or nothing in any direction.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know we could probably go on for at least another hour talking about this topic because I feel like it's so important and really deep, but we'll have to save that for part 2 of an interview in the future. But Steph, it's been so awesome to get to chat with you about this, just in general, going through the different topics of body grief and intuition and how like all that perfectionism mindset can cause people to not only exacerbate these health issues, but sometimes it can be like the root cause of the health issue, especially in the case of PCOS. So I've really enjoyed chatting with you about this today. And I know we're going to have people that want to connect with you further and learn more about how you work with clients. So where would be a next best step for somebody to take if they want to learn more about your philosophy and your methodology when it comes to overcoming PCOS challenges?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on and for the opportunity to share this. So my business is called Infinity Hill Nutrition. It's infinityhillnutrition.com and Instagram handle at Infinity Hill Nutrition. That name sort of tips a hat at the fact that like there is no destination. That's why I picked infinity, and it really ties into what we were talking about before, where it's like you get to the goal and then you're like, now what? Okay. So I have a program called the PCOS Freedom Academy, which is a 3-month one-on-one coaching program where we go through the foundations like I talked about, and a lot of this mindset shift and working on beliefs about ourselves and thoughts about ourselves, so you can get to a true place of freedom where you know how to trust your body, you know how to work the foundations from a nutritional and lifestyle approach to lead to long-term success. And I have a coupon code for your listeners. If you enroll in the PCOS Freedom Academy before June 30th, you use the coupon code FEARLESS in all caps, and you will get $150 off of my 3-month program.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for that generous gift to the listeners. We'll make sure to put the link to all the things you mentioned in the show notes. And if you guys want to check this out, you can go to lauraschoenfeldrd.com. And on the podcast area, this is episode 84. So you can go check out Steph's website, the freebie that she mentioned, and we'll make sure we share that coupon code information that you guys can use before the end of June. Well, thank you, Steph, so much for coming on and sharing your story and your expertise. It's been a really great conversation today.
Thanks, Laura. I'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. And thank you to those of you for hanging out with us for the last 45 minutes or so. And we'll look forward to seeing you here next time on the Fed and Fearless podcast. Take care, everybody. Are you a nutrition entrepreneur looking to grow an audience of people who will actually buy your programs and services? Then keep listening, because I have a special limited time opportunity for you to get coaching from me and my top level business coach on how to attract 100 of the right prospects for your nutrition coaching and consulting business. If you're looking to build a profitable, sustainable nutrition business, it doesn't matter if you have a brick and mortar practice or an online business. The fact of the matter is, all successful dietitian and nutritionist entrepreneurs know that in order to have demand and desire for their paid offers, their free content has to create that demand and desire. But unfortunately for most, they go about this process backwards. And no matter how big their list size, they hear crickets every time they try to sell something to anyone. I've been there myself, and I get it. It is beyond frustrating. But what if I told you that there was a surefire way of building an audience who not only craves your content, but literally begs you for it? That all of the hard work you put in can actually start paying off with sales and clients? And what if I also told you that you only need 100 subscribers to make it happen? Inside this free training from my expert coach, James Wedmore, you'll discover why traditional list building strategies don't work and just leave you spending months creating a bunch of free content that no one ever sees, or worse, attracts people that never want to invest with you. When you complete this free training, you'll start building a list that's literally going to be banging down your door to buy nutrition coaching and consulting services from you. Now listen, I've been working with James since 2018, starting with his incredible online program, Business by Design, and now as a part of his Performance Mastermind. And there's no one in the world of online business who I trust more to provide simple and effective, action-oriented content to learn how to become a digital CEO and grow a successful online business. I absolutely love every piece of training he puts out, and his free course on getting your first 100 leads is one of the best ones that he's ever done, and he's giving it away for free. Not only that, but as an extra special bonus, I'm running a live coaching group for 5 weeks starting on May 17th, where we'll go over the content from his training together, and I'll help you apply it to your nutrition business specifically. Between James's incredible teaching and my 9 years of experience running and growing an online health and nutrition business, we'll help you get those 100 high-quality leads faster and easier than ever before. To join us for this limited time free training and coaching experience, go to lauraschoenfeld.com/100 leads, that's 100 LEADS, and register now to grab your spot. I only run this free group once a year, so now's the time to join and learn everything you need to know about building a list of qualified nutrition clients quickly so you can have the profitable and successful nutrition business of your dreams. Go to lauraschoenfeld.com/100 leads and register now, and I'll see you in our free coaching group.